The very first thing I did after being reborn was frantically stab myself. And after stabbing myself, I even poured 2 pounds of salt on the wounds to disinfect them and even rubbed a pound of chili powder into my eyes. All because in my past life, my boss bound me to a 10x rebate system. I worked my ass off and he got 10x the bonus. I worked out like crazy and he got 10x the health. I lived like an ascetic monk while he partied every single night, yet his body only got stronger. And my girlfriend? She was his most capable accomplice. She forced me to quit smoking and drinking, to give up every single bad habit, just to make my life force purer so he could siphon it more smoothly. After being reborn, to make my boss feel 10 times the pain, that's why I did what I did at the start. The next day, I purposely arrived at the company bright and early, waiting for that bastard C to show up, 8:50 a.m. He arrived. However, there wasn't a single sign of injury on him. His movements weren't the least bit uncoordinated. When his gaze swept over my way, he even gave me a concerned smile. My heart sank into a bottomless abyss at that moment. Self-harm actually didn't work. Does his system only rebate the good stuff and not the bad? But that doesn't make sense. Otherwise, why would Lu Ruin force me to quit all my bad habits? Just as I was about to be swallowed by this despair, a familiar figure appeared in front of me. Gu Chen, what's wrong? You look so weak. Is the pressure at work too much? Don't push yourself too hard. How about we take this weekend off and go stay at a hot spring hotel in the suburbs for a couple of days just to properly relax? Or I can go with you to the gym tonight, work up a good sweat, and sweat out all that negative energy. Looking at her beautiful, smiling face, the anger in my heart, the grievance, and the despair instantly merged into a pool of magma and violently erupted. Pressure? Anxiety? Isn't it all thanks to you two cheating bastards? I walked out without saying a word. A few minutes later, I returned to the office. I had something new in my hand, a brand new pack of cigarettes, right in front of her and in front of all the colleagues in the office who were pretending to work but were actually perking their ears up for gossip. I lit one up. However, Liu Ruyan's reaction was 100 times more intense than I expected. Her face instantly changed. She dashed up to me in a flash, snatched the cigarette right out of my mouth, and slammed it onto the floor. Then, using her sharp high heels, she hysterically stomped it out. Gu Chen, are you crazy? Didn't you promise me you already quit smoking? Why are you smoking again? Do you have any idea how much damage this does to your body? This reaction was way too weird. In the past, no matter how much I resisted, working out or other self-discipline routines, she would always use a gentle, persuasive tone to guide me. But when it came to smoking, her reaction was actually this intense, this unhinged. It was as if I wasn't smoking a cigarette, but smoking her life away. I looked at her body, trembling slightly from agitation, and looked into her eyes, which were filled with panic and sheer terror. A crazy, bold, and earth-shattering thought struck like a bolt of lightning tearing through the darkness, instantly illuminating my chaotic mind. I get it now. I completely understand now. Ha 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 ha. Everyone in the office was dumbfounded by my sudden burst of laughter. Gu Chen, don't be like this. You're scaring me. I know I was wrong. I shouldn't have lost my temper at you. I'm really just doing this for your own good. For my own good? More like for that bastard SI's good. Those words were like a bomb, exploding right next to Lu Ruin's ears. What nonsense are you talking about? I don't understand. You don't understand? Go back and tell your sweet lover, that bastard Sai, that his good days are over. The next day, in the company elevator, I unexpectedly ran into that bastard SI. The guy who was always glowing with vitality in the past actually had faint dark circles under his eyes today. It was just the two of us in the elevator. I could clearly hear him letting out a suppressed, slight cough every now and then. His throat even made a muffled phlegm sound, the kind only a heavy smoker makes when waking up in the morning. Seeing him look like this, that flash of inspiration that tore through the darkness in my mind was completely lit up. So that's how it is. This damn rebate system, what it rebates isn't whether I did a good deed or a bad deed at all. What it rebates is my true inner feelings when I'm doing it. When I self-harmed, I felt pain in my heart, so he remained as smug and successful as ever, completely unaffected. So the negative physical effects brought on by this pleasure, the coughing, the throat discomfort, the lung damage. No wonder, during the year Lu Ruin and I dated, she never let me touch her. Turns out she wasn't being modest. She was afraid I'd feel pleasure. Afraid that the moment I felt good, that bastard Sai would be wiped off the face of the earth. No wonder she strictly banned me from all so-called bad habits. Staying up late, playing games, drinking, eating skewers, and she wouldn't even let me jerk off. Thinking of this, I almost burst out laughing. That bastard Sai and Liu Ruyan. You tried every possible way to suppress my nature, to strangle my desires, just so you yourselves could sit back and suck my blood without a care in the world. Well then, it's time to change the rules of the game. Since you're so afraid of me feeling good, then I'm going to feel as good as I damn well please. Having found the true way to use the system, I felt like the whole world had become vibrant and colorful. That bastard Sai's condition rapidly deteriorated at a visible rate. He started coughing frequently and violently. Especially during meetings, he'd often cough until his face turned red before he could even finish a sentence. It even drew dissatisfied glares from the big boss. But he was very good at enduring it. He knew clearly in his heart that there were less than 3 months left until the final harvest day. As long as he could endure this period of time, he could take the massive wealth and healthy body I had painstakingly accumulated over the past year, fly far away, and enjoy life. But I also realized that just relying on smoking cigarettes to completely ruin him in less than 3 months wasn't quite enough. That night, I tossed and turned in bed. I started taking inventory of what other things could make me feel genuine pleasure from the bottom of my heart, but also have obvious negative effects on the body. Suddenly, a thought I had suppressed for a long time, one that was even a bit hard to speak of, flashed through my mind, like a mischievous shooting star, and then quickly became clear and bright. That's right. As a 26-year-old, hot-blooded, single man with perfectly normal physiological functions, before I was reborn, I was kept on a tight leash by that woman Lu Ruin. Let alone that, even kissing depended on her mood. She used the high-sounding excuse that she had to be responsible for our future and that we couldn't indulge in fleeting pleasures. Thinking about it now, she was just terrified of me feeling good. I've been reborn, and I've broken up with her. I'm a glorious single dog once again. So, taking matters into my own hands is the most normal thing in the world, isn't it? I gave this plan a resounding and hopeful name, Project Liftoff. In just 3 short days, that bastard Sai rapidly wasted away at an astonishing speed. He needed to hold onto the wall just to walk, as if a gust of wind could blow him over. During meetings, the laser pointer in his hand shook like he had late-stage Parkinson's. He couldn't even point straight at the words on the PowerPoint. There were several times when his eyes would suddenly lose focus mid-sentence, and he'd just space out. The whole department noticed something was wrong with him and gossiped privately. What's wrong with Supervisor Sai? He looks like all his yang energy has been sucked dry. Well, he's a young man. He's got a lot of fire in him. It's understandable. Totally understandable. That afternoon, he finally couldn't take it anymore. He called me into his office. Gu Chen, I know I wronged you. After you and Lu Ruin broke up, I stole her. It's my fault. I'm a bastard. I apologize to you. He actually took the initiative to bow his head and apologize to me. I sneered inwardly. It seems he really was beaten to the brink of losing his soul by my twice-a-day lift-off combo. But how could I possibly let him off the hook? I still have so many more plans I haven't implemented yet. Supervisor Sai, what happened? Gu Chen, I see you're a talented person. You can't just keep being so decadent. Look, this is the new media promotion project in the south of the city. The prospects are excellent and the cash flow is abundant. All the hard and tiring work in the early stages has pretty much been done by Jiang Chang's team in the planning department. They've handled almost everything. Now, all that's left is the final step of integration and launch. You just need to go and reap the rewards. I've already cleared it with the higher-ups. I'm putting you in full charge of wrapping up this project. The bonus will be absolutely massive. Another one of these free money handouts. He thought he could buy me off with money to make me stop these suicide bomber attacks. Ridiculous. Supervisor C, I kid. I want to resign. No, he practically roared. Then he immediately realized he had lost his composure and hastily softened his tone, practically begging me. Gu Chen, listen to me. The company needs you. I need you too. You can't leave. You absolutely cannot leave. He knew that even if I left, as long as the system was still bound, he could still use all sorts of shady backroom deals to force money and credit under my name. He'd still be able to get the 10x rebate. But if that happened, I would completely escape his sight and control. He was terrified. Terrified that after I left, I would do even more deranged, unbearable things for pleasure. Gu Chen, consider it me begging you, okay? As long as you stay in the company, I'll give you whatever you want. A raise, a promotion, no problem. Just please stop torturing yourself like this, okay? Looking at him on the verge of a breakdown, I felt absolutely ecstatic inside. Torturing myself? Bro, you might not know this, but I'm actually enjoying life. After that day, I started indulging myself even more aggressively. At night, I was no longer satisfied with a simple liftoff. Instead, I'd invite a few of my degenerate friends to go drinking at bars and singing at KTVs. I wouldn't go home until dawn. During the day, I'd catch up on sleep at the company. When I woke up, I'd go to the smoking area for a cigarette to refresh myself and conveniently hit my daily liftoff KPI in the company's luxurious restrooms. That bastard Z's body rapidly collapsed at a terrifying speed. I heard he had already started experiencing auditory and visual hallucinations. There were several times during meetings where he suddenly stood up, pointed at an empty corner, and started cursing, saying there were ghosts chasing him. Lu Ruin also came looking for me a few times. She was no longer that aloof goddess, but was crying her eyes out, looking utterly haggard. She begged me to let that bastard Sai go. I looked at her hypocritical face and only felt incredibly ridiculous and disgusted. If you knew this day would come, why did you do it in the first place? It's too late to turn back now. I still have a big gift to give you too. Just wait. My grandpa was a genuine old farmer, but he didn't smoke those fancy, flashy cigarettes sold on the market. He only smoked the leaf tobacco he grew himself in the fields and sun-dried with his own hands. I used to always be curious about what it tasted like and wanted to sneak a puff, but Grandpa caught me every time. "What's a little kid messing with this for? It'll choke you to death." Later, I grew up, left my hometown, and went to the city to study and work. And then Grandpa passed away. I never had the chance again to get my hands on that kind of old antique, full of a primal, wild aura. Now, I think it's time. I went through a lot of trouble to get a large bag of top-quality, supposedly 3-year cellar-aged vintage leaf tobacco. The tobacco leaves were a deep, oily, dark brown. Then, mimicking my grandpa from memory, I tore those oily leaves apart piece by piece and spread them evenly on a huge, thick piece of straw paper. Then, starting carefully from one end, I rolled it up tightly. My goal was to create a one-of-a-kind piece of art, a weapon of mass destruction worthy of going down in history. Finally, after over an hour of meticulous crafting and repeated adjustments, an unprecedented super cigar was born in my hands. It was literally as long as my forearm and as thick as my thermos. Rather than calling it a cigarette, it was more like a brown magic staff. Or, to use a more fitting, more vivid term to describe it, a nuclear weapon. I could already picture it. When that bastard, C, under the system's effect, inhaled a 10x dose of this nuke, what kind of magnificent and twisted expression would bloom on his handsome face? I could almost hear the beautiful wails of his soul leaving his body and ascending to the heavens. One day, the company held the work summary conference for the first 3 quarters. This was the most important meeting of the year. The highest level executives, including the group chairman who was usually out of town on inspections all year round, were all in attendance. And that bastard C, as the star supervisor with the most dazzling performance and the most highly regarded this year, was scheduled to be the first to present on stage. When I arrived at the venue, he was already dressed in a sharp suit, standing by the podium getting ready. He was wearing an expensive, well-fitted, custom-tailored suit, and his hair was slicked back with gel until it shone. He was trying to use these external things to cover up his extremely haggard face. However, it was all in vain. His sunken eye sockets, his pale and puffy face, and those 2 legs that involuntarily trembled slightly while he stood, all seemed to be silently accusing him of his happy life recently. The chairman, sitting right in the middle of the front row, already had his brows slightly furrowed. He was clearly quite dissatisfied with the current state of his once prized subordinate. I discreetly leaned my phone against the water cup in front of me, adjusted the camera angle so it aimed right at the podium, and silently hit the record button. When that bastard Sai started his speech, I quietly slipped out of the venue and headed straight for the smoking room on the top floor. Then, I solemnly pulled out my meticulously crafted nuclear weapon, carrying all my hatred. In that instant, I felt like the top of my skull was blown clean off by an incoming cannonball. Blown right off. My mind instantly went completely blank. I saw stars dancing wildly in front of my eyes. The world spun around me, and my ears were ringing. My legs gave out, and I collapsed straight to the floor. I rested for a full minute. I knew I couldn't handle any more. I hurriedly put it out, stuffed it back into my pocket, and then, leaning against the wall, dizzy and stumbling with every step, I made my way back to the venue. Just as I reached the entrance of the venue, I was stunned by the scene inside. The venue had already devolved into utter chaos. Female colleagues screaming, male colleagues shouting in shock, and the urgent crackle of the security guards' walkie-talkies all intertwined. I saw several people gathered around the podium. The chairman's face was as dark as the bottom of a pot, and he was roaring something at his secretary. I returned to my seat, calmly picked up my phone, and stopped the recording. I tapped on the video I had just recorded. The footage inside almost made me snort with laughter right then and there. At the beginning of the video, Si Zhuanghuo was standing at the podium, smugly bragging about his glorious achievements this year. Suddenly, at the exact moment I took the first drag of that nuke, his body violently stiffened. His eyes instantly bulged out, completely bloodshot, as if he had seen something utterly terrifying. Immediately after, he started convulsing violently, like a live fish thrown onto a scorching hot iron plate. His mouth was wide open, letting out weird, guttural gasps from his throat, but unable to form a single complete syllable. The next second, right when I took the second drag, a massive amount of white foam violently spewed from the corners of his mouth. His whole body, like a chopped-down log, fell straight backward. With a loud thud, he crashed heavily onto the floor. His limbs were still uncontrollably and rhythmically twitching, like a Dance Dance Revolution player who had lost control. That scene was more spectacular, more thrilling, and more satisfying than any B-movie horror film I had ever seen. That bastard Sai was hauled away by an ambulance that very day and sent straight to the ICU. The hospital organized an overnight expert consultation. The final conclusion was that due to long-term heavy smoking, alcoholism, staying up late, excessive sexual indulgence, and other bad lifestyle habits, it led to systemic multi-organ functional disorder and triggered an acute epileptic-like seizure and nervous system impairment. The doctor repeatedly warned the family that the patient's current condition was extremely critical. He needed absolute bed rest and could not be subjected to even the slightest bit of stimulation. Otherwise, he could drop dead at any moment. The next day, whistling a tune, I leisurely strolled over to the hospital's ICU visiting area. Through the thick glass, I saw that bastard Sai on the hospital bed and Lu Ruyan keeping watch by his side. Lu Ruyan had cried until her eyes were red and swollen, looking like two walnuts. When she saw me, her eyes were filled with bone-deep fear and venomous resentment. That bastard C on the bed was wearing an oxygen mask hooked up to all sorts of tubes and monitors, looking like a zombie that had been buried early. I faced the glass window and flashed a brilliant smile. I was just thinking, such good stuff shouldn't go to waste. I've invited a few friends out tonight to pull an all-nighter drinking and singing at the KTV. Might as well bring this along. On the other side of the glass, that bastard C's eyes instantly widened like two brass bells. On his ashen face, a violent emotional fluctuation appeared for the first time. It was sheer, absolute terror. The numbers on the ventilator started jumping wildly, blaring a piercing alarm. He ripped the oxygen mask off his face and used every ounce of his strength to struggle to sit up. No, Gu Chen, I'm begging you. Please, just get some good rest. Don't. Don't go out partying anymore. I looked at his dying, desperate state, and the smile on my lips grew even colder. You bastard Sai. I know that damn system of yours can rebate everything I get back to you 10 times over, right? His eyes went from shock to horror and finally to utter despair before turning completely dead and ashen. I was wrong, Gu Chen. I was wrong. I'll give you all the money the system rebated. I'll give you half. No, I'll give it all to you. Please, I'm begging you, just let me go. I laughed. I laughed with absolute sarcasm and absolute arrogance. Ha. Money? What about my life? How are you going to pay me back for that? He was completely speechless, trembling all over like a leaf in the wind. Don't rush, my good bro. We'll take our time playing. I really want to see, in these last 90 days, whether you get pleasured to death by me first, or if I play myself to death first. After saying that, I stopped looking at his face, which was twisted and deformed from extreme terror, turned around, and walked away without looking back. Behind me was the piercing alarm echoing through the ICU, Lu Ruin's heart-wrenching screams, and the shattering sound of equipment being knocked to the floor. The moment I stepped out of the hospital gates, in my mind, a cold, purely mechanical voice devoid of any human emotion suddenly rang out. Warning, detected that the host's vital signs are under severe and irreversible threat. System core safety protocol triggered. Initiating forced unbinding sequence. Unbinding progress, 10%, 30%, 100%. Forced unbinding sequence complete. Binding removed. As soon as the voice faded, I felt an indescribable, warm current full of vitality instantly surge from my limbs and bones and quickly spread throughout my entire body. It was a long-lost sense of power that belonged entirely to me. It was as if all the life force that had been constantly siphoned away by the system had returned to my body in this moment with interest. I let out a long breath, feeling more relaxed than I ever had before. A week later, I received news. That bastard Sai was discharged from the hospital and returned to the company alive and kicking. I secretly went near the company to take a look at him. His body was healed. He was driving his flashy Porsche, as if the person struggling on death's door in the ICU before wasn't him at all. I felt a bit helpless in my heart. Since he survived, then next would be the time for my reckoning. That afternoon, I received a call, personally from the HR manager, notifying me that I was fired. The reasons were long-term, unexcused absences, an extremely poor work attitude, severe violations of company discipline, and causing a negative impact on the company. I didn't argue, nor did I make a fuss. I accepted this result very calmly. I packed up my pitiful personal belongings and left this place that gave me my rebirth and almost killed me a second time. I went to a warm coastal town in the south, found a laid-back programmer job with no overtime, rented an apartment with an ocean view, and started a brand new life that truly belonged to me. About 3 months later, on an ordinary afternoon, I received an unexpected phone call. The caller ID showed an unknown number, and the location was the city I used to live in. I hesitated for a moment, but still answered it. Hello? Is this Gu Shen? It's me. Gu Chen, please, I'm begging you. Can you lend me some money? 500,000. No, 300,000 is fine too. I'm begging you. You're the only one who can help me now. Go find your husband, that bastard C. Isn't he a young talent, a business elite? Who knew that the moment I mentioned that bastard Sai's name, Lu Ruyan on the other end of the phone would be like a powder keg with a lit fuse, instantly exploding. Si Zhuanghuo, that goddamn son of a bitch. I hope he dies a horrible death. She cursed until her voice was hoarse, completely hysterical, as if Si Zhuanghuo was her sworn enemy who murdered her father. I was completely baffled by her sudden madness and didn't bother listening any further. I just hung up the phone directly and blocked her number. However, a few days later, through a phone call with a former colleague who was still at the old company and whom I was on decent terms with, I finally heard the whole story from start to finish. It turns out, at the exact moment the system forcibly unbound from me, a delayed yet incredibly just judgment fell upon that bastard Sai's head. That so-called advanced intelligent reverse rebate system followed a bizarre yet fair law of conservation of energy. All the gifts it bestowed upon that bastard C had already been secretly priced. The price of forced unbinding was to take all the positive gains plundered through illegitimate means and return them 10 times over in an even more cruel manner. The bonuses, salary, and dividends I earned through projects over the past year added up to over $1 million. The system rebated him over $10 million in cash, and at the moment of unbinding, that $10 million in cash instantly turned into a massive debt of over $100 million that appeared out of thin air. And these debts weren't ordinary bank loans, but were scattered across dozens of different loan shark companies with lethal compounding interest rates. What's even crazier is that the life force I painstakingly built up over the past year, the energy that was sucked away by him to let him recklessly squander his health, also rebounded onto him in the form of an overdraft after the unbinding, rebounded onto him. That's also why he looked like he had recovered his health after being discharged. That was nothing more than the final terminal lucidity of his bodily functions after the system unbound. In reality, his body's foundation had long been hollowed out. Right after I left the company, Si Zhuanghuo and Lu Ruyan got married at lightning speed, and Lu Ruyan, as his legal wife, naturally became jointly responsible for this astronomical, massive debt. It became their joint marital debt. Lu Ruyan broke down on the spot when she found out the truth. She cried and screamed, demanding a divorce from Si Zhuanghuo. Si Zhuanghuo, wanting someone to share the debt, absolutely refused to agree. The people from those loan shark companies sent people to the company almost every day to visit that bastard Sai and Lu Ruyan. They didn't hit or curse at them. They just brought little stools, sat at the door of that bastard Si's office or next to Lu Ruyan's cubicle, and watched them work expressionlessly. If they went to eat, they followed them to the cafeteria. If they went to the bathroom, they guarded the bathroom door. That kind of invisible pressure was enough to make anyone suffer a mental breakdown. Eventually, the company fired both of them on the grounds of severely disrupting normal office order and damaging the corporate image. Fired both of them. My former colleague said he would never forget the scene that afternoon. That bastard SI was dragged out of his luxurious office, like a dead dog, by several vicious-looking thugs. As he struggled frantically, he screamed his lungs out at the empty air. "I don't want to unbind. I don't want to unbind. I was wrong. Please, bind to me again. Bind to me. I'm begging you." Later on, I heard the couple was forcibly taken away from that city by the loan sharks. Some say they were sold to a scam compound in northern Myanmar to use their smart brains and pretty faces to create value and pay off that never-ending debt. From then on, they were never heard from again. Evil people eventually get what they deserve. I started writing the first line of code for my new project. This time, all the hard work, all the sweat, all the wisdom and creation will belong entirely to me. My life is mine to control.